been in outside of any of that, it's the ability to be around those people that has been so incredible. As I look back on the things that I've done so far, I just can't believe the presence I've been in.
Yeah, and and when you're in it, I mean, I don't know about you, but there are moments where you're in a scene with somebody, or if you're lucky enough just to be doing off-camera lines with somebody you respect, who like to see work, where you can just really take it in. It's fucking astounding because it's such a heightened moment when they go action, and like the way that, the silence, all of a sudden this thing happens. And I don't know if anybody can really know it. And in theater, people witness it with you. But when you're doing movies or TV, and sometimes where I'd be working with, Betty Gilpin or somebody, like I would just be looking at her going like, oh my God, she's really doing it. Like.
That's my favorite thing. My God, he's acting. Yeah. He's really doing it. He's saving the world.
But, it's exciting to see it, as a fan or as somebody who wants to be moved. Like, I would find myself in scenes that weren't even sad. Again, it's that human thing, the vulnerability thing, where like I'm getting choked up and it's not even called for. So I'm fighting back tears and I'm supposed to be doing something funny, but I'm so engaged in the humanness of the situation that, you get overwhelmed.
I do think that the best filmmakers are the ones who there are all different kinds who are the best, I think, who do incredible work. And like, sometimes you just don't know. It's such a weird thing, as an actor too, in a film, the thing I've learned from stage so much is that, like I said, I asked if you projected on the audience, because so often you think things suck and like people come off and be like, that was amazing. You have no idea ever. So I've given up over the years on even thinking anything works. I just do what I can do and hope for the best. I literally close my eyes and throw the dart and go like, I've done this for a couple of years. I pretty much know where the bullseye is. If I get it anywhere in and around that, good, I'll be happy.
Yeah, and also you don't want to deny people their experience. Just because you didn't feel, that it was your night or your scene or your movie. If somebody loves it, you got to let them have that. You don't want to be that guy that's sort of like, you were great, and they're like, no, I don't know, sort of, what night you go?
Yeah. Well, by the way, come on, you have to have done that. That's so the like.
That's a classic old stand-up.
Oh, Seattle, yeah, Seattle.
Right. You ever heard that joke? There's several angles. I don't know how people tell the joke about the comic. Like, he's in a town where he's doing a week at the comedy club, and he's at the mall, like on the Saturday after the Friday show, just walking around, and some girl walks up to him and says, "Man, you were great last night. You were so hot and funny, and I'd really like to hang out with you tonight if you have time." And he goes, "What show? First or second show?"
I mean,
right?
That's about sums it up. That about sums it up.
The actor's life.
I mean, in truth, it's like if only they knew what a narcissist they were telling was,
Is it narcissism or is it just like horrendous insecurity? I mean, on some level, like, it is selfish, but I mean, you do have certain feelings about, when you felt like you connected. And there is some,
Yeah, but those things are just not like, they just don't matter. You're right. It just doesn't matter. Like, the number of times I've come off of the preview period in theaters, what I love the most. And it's like, the number of times I came out of a preview going like, we knocked that out. Like, that was great. And the director comes back and goes like, it was way too slow. And you're like, what? Like, but I was indulging every possible feeling. Like, isn't that what it's all about? And they're like, audience was so bored.
Oh, no.
You're not telling the story, And then you do it the next night. You're like, fine, I'll pace it up. Yeah. And it's like such a sort of like technically well done.
Right.
In time thing,
but not as satisfying.
And the director comes back and is weeping,
right.
And you go like, I hate my job. What is this? Like, there's nothing in it for me,
You hate your job. You succeeded at pretending. That is the job.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, won't you just let me indulge?
Right.
But there is I think that there is something that's so humbling and wonderful about that, because in the end, story is king.
Right.
Story is king.
Right.
Like, and that's the thing that I've learned as best as I can is you service that story, you will bring people joy. you will bring people discovery. And if you can, when you have an opportunity, pick the right authors, because that's really the job. It's like you pick the right author, you pick the right
as an actor or a producer.
Yeah, but I mean, then you're just sort of, you're in service of that thing.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's it. I mean, but it is sort of that. And you better love the music you're singing.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
Because, and if you don't, then, you know, you better be supporting a life that you love, you know?
Do you feel like you shifted to, like, that there was, like, once you started to really focus, or once you did Sunday in the Park there, was that the thing that opened you up? Had you kind of exhausted yourself with movies at that point?
I don't think I'll ever be exhausted by movies, but I think I just hit a point where I asked myself what I really love, and I've always loved and had I think a skill enough to do musical theater live, right? And I think that form of storytelling has always been my love, right? Acting through music, I think, is a strength that does bring me joy, but I also think I'm something about being able to communicate through that way. I've always felt, but I always felt people told me, oh, you have all these amazing opportunities, like you can be in film, and you know, like why would you want to do that? You have this blossoming career in movies, like go for it. This is the thing. And I go, yes, you're right. And I felt like I should be embarrassed of that or something. Like I like, oh, you know, and so many people would tell me like, oh, I hate musical theater. You know, and so you go like, oh yeah, you man. I mean, totally.
So you're almost like a closeted musical theater appreciator.
Yeah. Oh, are you kidding me? Like appreciator, like desperately in love with. I'm gonna be like. So I think that at a certain point in my life, maybe just getting older, I was like, fuck what everybody else says. I don't give a shit. Yeah. Like this brings me joy. I'm gonna die one day. Like what am I doing? I'm gonna do this. And so I just said. And I also met this incredible person, Janine Tesori, who happened to write Fun Home as the composer, as an incredible musical theater composer. And she was like, they were doing Little Shop of Horrors with Ellen Greene, the original Audrey, at City Center in New York City. And she was like, will you play Seymour in that? And I was like, absolutely not. You know, like and she was like, she just spent so much time convincing me that I could do it that I finally was like, fuck it, I'm going to do this. And it was the best experience I've ever had. Like, it was so mind blowing to be on a stage with Ellen Greene, who originated a part that like no one else can play. You know, she's the OG of OGs. And she, you know, being up there with this incredible cast performing, that was when I was like, you know what? I want to do more of this. You know, let's try it. And Janine has been my teacher and my guide and guru and friend through so much. She brought Sunday in the Park with George to me, and then, you know, we're doing the movie Fun Home, and so. Well,
that's good, and you can do the other stuff too. Now you've just sort of broadened your heart and possibilities of employment.
Yeah.
Both.
I like that. Yeah, you're right. It's basically about employment. Yes.
Well, but it just opens up a whole new path that you happen to love. It doesn't diminish anything, but I imagine it fills in a gap that wasn't there. It fills in a compartment in your soul that wasn't there. I mean, you know, obviously you're great at movies and you've done great work, but you know, having the courage to sort of follow through with the musical thing, despite the judgment that you thought you would come at you, just because you love it so much, and then having the opportunity, it must make you feel like a whole person as an artist. You know,
is that how you felt about getting into movies? And like when you did Glow, I remember watching and being like, he's fucking great.
Oh, that's nice. Thanks.
And so distinctive. Like when you're in that, the first time you show up in that show, it's like boom, like you're, and I, by the way, that was like, if you wrote that out, what I just said, I would sound like a fool. But I'd probably sound like a fool without writing it out. But you were just like, boom, you were there. And do you feel that way about movies? Like, do you feel like this, you love it?
Well, this last one was the first time that I, chose to do something that was scary to me. Like, because it's not like I'm getting a lot of roles, but usually if they want me to be in something, it's to be the cranky, neurotic, amped up, whatever, sort of like Sam, Sylvia, and Glow or whatever. But this one, the guy really liked the work I did on my show. He liked the way that I was emotional in my face. And this guy that he wanted me to play was this relatively earnest, somewhat kind of beaten down a bit Texan guy who'd been sort of humbled by life, but definitely not neurotic or necessarily self-aware or angry and I had to be Texan. And I told the guy, I said, like, I don't know, I don't know about the accent. He's like, we'll work around that. I'm like, but then like in my mind, I'm like, but this, challenge yourself that you wanted to try to do it. Meet with the dialogue coach, the dialect coach, figure this shit out and just commit. And so I did. And I was very proud that I did. And the guy was happy. I mean, that's all, like you said, you're servicing this thing and the director's doing this thing. And I needed to show up for work because he only had 19 days. And I'm working with heavies, man. You know, Andrea Riceborough?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. She's the other person.
Amazing.
Like it's me and her. Mostly.
But that also
and Andre
is
Royo.
Helpful when you have someone that, you have actors like that. There's also, you're like.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, right. They can carry me.
Yeah, no, but they elicit a real response, or they elicit something that's like, that is, it's that terrible cliche tennis metaphor, but it's true.
But my point being that this was the first time that I felt like, I showed up with a craft in place with choices, and taking a risk for me and really engaging in the work of acting. It was really the first time that I had the freedom of mind and the lack of fear to feel that. So, yeah, Did you feel like you pushed through your, the accent thing? I just figured out, I guess like any actor does, I figured out, well, how do I get into this? How do I get into this guy? What can I rely on as a tool to show up for these scenes and to show up emotionally? How do I, the dialect coach had written out some words, a little primer of how to say things. Yeah. So like, in my trailer, I just run through those and plant the thing and then let it go. I'm sure there's, the accent's not perfect, but look, man, I did a little research and I watched some big fucking actors do accents and no one holds it perfectly.
No. I mean, and that's the thing is I think it's all in a certain way a kind of performance, like even the sort of stringing through of roles, like a career is that as well. Right. And there are people who spend so much time curating that, just like obsessively picking, and that's become the sort of idea of what a great actor is, of like curating it to the point of like obsession. And I just think, I hope all those people are having fun, because
you anal weirdos who.
Well, also because it's a great job. Like, I mean, it's a great job in that it's a great job to have fun and to explore things inside yourself and those fears.
Right. And when you connect in a scene, you know what I mean? That was the thing about working with Andrea is like, she's one of these English kind of like, here I am like, doing everything. I'm wide open, and I feel myself getting choked up. And she's like, oh, that was good. Was that all right? And I'm like, did you feel that? Were you just fucking with me? Didn't you feel that? You had to have felt that, right? I didn't say that to her, but that's what you walk away. It's like, well, I felt it. I don't give a shit. I was there. If she was pretending, fine.
American versus the British,
kind of
like that is the age old. We're just this weird mess, and then like they're just so put together and kill it every time. We're just like sloppy.
It was wild to watch her work, because she was playing this broken down Texan woman, and I mean it was, and Andre, who I've known a bit from. We just kind of became friends because he did my podcast. Like he's intense. But yeah, I mean, I dug it and it made me want to do more. It's like going through that first obstacle of taking real risks. You know, initially with my show Marin, it was basically some version of me, and Sam Sylvia was kind of me with no self-awareness. And then, you know, to continue to